The Montana plains were wrapped in a cold, silver night when Jedediah found himself riding along the fence line of his ranch. He wasn't looking for trouble, the truth was, he rode these late hours because the house felt too empty. Ever since his wife passed, the silence inside those walls pressed on him like a weight he couldn't bear. So he'd ride. Not for purpose, but for peace. Whiskey, his loyal bay gelding, walked steady beneath him. The lantern hanging from the saddle horn swayed with each step, casting a warm halo that cut through the darkness. It was quiet tonight, so quiet that Jed could hear the distant rush of wind brushing over the prairie. Then Whiskey snorted sharply. Jed straightened, the hairs on his neck rising. "Easy, boy." "What is it?" The horse flicked his ears toward the barn. A faint creak carried through the night. The barn doors, normally shut tight, sat slightly open. Jed's pulse tightened. Few things spooked Whiskey, and none without reason. He dismounted quietly and stepped toward the barn. Inside, shadows danced along the wooden beams, stirred by the draft. Jed raised the lantern. That's when he saw her. A woman lay curled in the straw beside Whiskey's stall, barefoot, exhausted, her dress torn at the hem. Her blonde hair was tangled, her cheeks streaked with dried tears. She had a gash on her leg, dried blood cracking around the wound. One hand rested on Whiskey's flank, as though the horse had been the only comfort she'd found. She didn't stir at first. She slept deeply, the kind of sleep that only arrives when someone's been running from something for far too long. Jed stepped forward slowly. "Ma'am? You all right?" Her eyelids fluttered open. Gray eyes, stormy and frightened, locked on him. She pushed herself back instinctively but gasped as pain shot through her ankle. Jed lifted both hands gently. "Easy now. I ain't here to hurt you." For a moment, she simply stared, her breath trembling in her chest. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go." "What's your name?" Jed asked softly. After a long pause, "Clara." "Clara Whitmore. Well, Clara, looks like you've been through hell. Let me help you up." Her hesitation lasted only a heartbeat. She placed her cold hand in his, and he helped her stand, steadying her as she limped slightly. Together, they made their way to the warm glow of his house. Inside, Jed guided her to the couch beside the cast-iron stove, wrapped a quilt around her shoulders, and handed her a steaming mug of coffee. She blinked at him through strands of messy hair. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Jed took a slow breath. "Because somebody once helped me when I needed it. Folks should do more of that." Her eyes softened. Something in his voice, in the quiet sincerity, seemed to loosen the layers of fear she carried. Jed cleaned her leg wound carefully. She winced, but not once did she pull away. When he asked what happened, Clara stared into her mug, fingers trembling. "I'm a widow," she whispered. "My husband died last winter. I lived with his family after. They wanted things from me, my land, my rights, control over my future. Things I couldn't give. When I refused, they turned cruel." Jed felt a slow burn of anger on her behalf. "So I ran," Clara continued. "I walked for 2 days. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to get away." Jed nodded, absorbing every word. "You did right leaving. No one should be forced into anything." Clara exhaled shakily, then reached into her torn dress pocket. "There's something else. I wasn't sure if I should show you, but maybe I'm meant to." She handed him a folded, worn photograph. Jed opened it and his breath caught. It was his late wife. Standing beside a man he didn't recognize and a little girl with Clara's same gray eyes. Jed's hands trembled slightly. Where did you get this?" Clara's voice quivered. "The man is my father. The little girl is me. Your wife saved his life years before she ever met you. He always told me if I was ever in danger, I should find the woman in that picture. I didn't know she'd passed." Jed stared at the photograph, shock and wonder washing over him. His wife had never told him the child she saved was Clara. Clara continued softly, when I saw the ranch, something pulled me here. I thought maybe she could help me, but instead, I found you. Jed felt his throat tighten. As if fate had looped back gently, guiding this young woman to him the same way his wife once guided her father. He looked at Clara with a gentleness he hadn't felt in months. Clara Whitmore, my wife would have brought you in without a second thought. And so will I. Clara's eyes filled instantly, her voice breaking. I haven't felt safe in so long. Well, Jed said quietly, you're safe now. She sobbed, soft, tired, grateful, and Jed rested a comforting hand on her shoulder. She leaned into it. Not like someone broken, but like someone finally allowed to rest. That night, Clara slept in the guest room warm, safe, wrapped in quilts that smelled faintly of cedar. Jed stood in the hallway long after she closed the door, lantern glowing by his side. For the first time since his wife's passing, the house didn't feel empty. It felt right. Like someone had brought light back into it. Clara woke the next morning to the smell of coffee and the soft clink of mugs. Jed offered her a seat, and over breakfast she told him more about the pressure her husband's family put on her, the threats, the fear. You ain't going back there, Jed said firmly. Clara looked at him with tear-bright eyes. But I have nowhere else. You do now, Jed replied. As long as you need. Her lips trembled. Why? Why help me this much? Jed swallowed. Because maybe it's how I honor my wife. By helping someone she once saved. Clara looked down at the photograph, fingers brushing the faded edges. She must have been remarkable. She was, Jed whispered. And I reckon you're part of the reason she crossed my path all those years ago. A small, soft smile touched Clara's face, fragile but full of gratitude. Days turned into weeks. Clara healed slowly, her limp fading, her spirit returning. She helped Jed with chores, feeding the horses, mending fences, preparing meals in the quiet kitchen that had once felt too big for one man. She laughed sometimes, soft, shy laughter that warmed Jed more than the fire ever could. And Jed began to live again. Not because grief vanished, but because Clara's presence filled the empty spaces with gentle company and understanding. They shared stories in the evenings, her memories of her father, his stories of ranch life with his wife. They found comfort in each other's survival, in the quiet knowledge that pain need not be carried alone. One evening, Clara stood beside him on the porch, watching the sun melt behind the hills. The breeze brushed her hair across her face, she tucked it behind her ear and sighed. I never thought I'd feel safe again, she whispered. Jed looked at her, eyes warm. You're strong, Clara. Stronger than you know. She leaned lightly against him, just enough to show trust, not dependence. It doesn't feel so lonely anymore, she said softly. Jed looked at the horizon, a strange peace settling in his chest. No. It doesn't. With time, Clara chose to stay. Together, they built her a small cottage on the ranch, a fresh start, a place she could call her own. She planted flowers by the doorstep, grew vegetables in the soil, and learned the rhythm of the land. In return, she helped Jed remember how to breathe again. Their bond deepened, not rushed, not forced. It grew the way good things do on the prairie, with patience, warmth, and quiet strength. And though love came slowly, it came surely. The kind built on respect. On healing. On the simple act of showing up. One night, Clara looked at Jed with soft, grateful eyes and said, maybe your wife led me here. Jed nodded. Maybe she led us both. Years later, folks would speak of that night, the night a lonely cowboy opened his barn door and found a widow with a secret. They'd talk about how kindness saved two souls at once. About how grief turned into purpose. About how a photograph became a bridge between two lives. But mostly, they talked about the truth at the heart of it. Sometimes the people we're meant to find are guided to us by those we've lost. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can change everything.